I think audacious means I live not without fear, but I act in the midst of fear. Right? I think audacious living, limitless living, it isn't this grandiose thing that we just like, oh, we're gonna, got to be brave and all that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But listen, fear, challenge, struggles hard. One of my things is do it hard, right?
Mm.
Just do the hard things first, that thing. So I think audacious living is going after your dreams and passions, even when you're afraid or you're scared or you're unsure or you're not certain. I think that audaciousness is that willingness to step in those places, even when it feels like it's going to be hard, right?
Driven by purpose, fueled by passion. My words got power, my thoughts have action. Motivation, stay gracious. That's greatness. Be audacious. Motivation. Be audacious. Innovation. Be audacious. Inspiration. Be bold. Motivation. Be audacious.
Greetings and salutations. Welcome back to the Audacious Living Podcast. It's always a pleasure to be here. And, really, this show exists to help you live your best audacious life ever. We've said it many, many times before, and we'll continue to say that. It's not louder, not busier, but more intentional, more meaningful, and more aligned with who you truly are. So let me ask you something right out the gate. We're not wasting no time here. What if your limits aren't real? What if the ceilings you've been living under were built by words spoken years ago, beliefs you never chose, or moments you never questioned? That's exactly what we're unpacking today with my guest, Rick Torrison. Rick is a leadership coach, mindset strategist, former educator and author who spent over 4 decades helping people identify and dismantle the limiting beliefs that quietly shape their lives. His work is rooted in one powerful idea, that chasing success isn't true fulfillment. It's living with significance and impact. So if you've ever felt like there's more in you than what's showing up right now, this conversation is definitely for you. Rick and I dig into how limiting beliefs form, why words carry more weight than we realize, and how simply showing up fully present can open doors that we didn't even know existed. This is grounded, it's honest, and deeply human conversation. So let's dive into it. Hey, Rick, thank you for joining me here today on the Audacious Living Podcast. I'm going to take this moment, and if I were to give out an award, I'm going to give you the award for the most entertaining pre-interview chat ever, because we've been going for the last, 10, 15 minutes, and somewhere along the line we said, hey, let's press record here to get this thing going because we're here for a reason. Thanks for being here, my friend. Hope all is well.
Man, I love being a winner before we even start, man. Drop the mic. Let's go home. It's all good, right? It's all
That's
good.
awesome. That's awesome. Listen,
I'm excited to be here. I'm real excited.
No, thank you. There's no better way to sort of start a conversation with excitement, and that's a big part of my world and the positive energy and things that we bring, because that can have a really lasting impacts on other people. Look, again, like I said, I appreciate you being here, man. This is cool, very cool.
Yeah. Yeah, man, I'm excited. I love your message. I love what you're doing. I love the story that you got here. And so the opportunity to spend a little time. I was thinking, can we flip the switch and let me be the interviewer and you be the guest? Because I've got so many questions. That
How about we can go back and forth. That's what conversations are, man. We just go back and forth. So you got something you want to ask? By all means, I'm here, man.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for the opportunity to hopefully add some value to your community and to bless your group. And I'm already blessed by being here. So
Cool.
I'm looking forward to it. I love the mindset, the audacious mindset that you're doing, and the idea of just the living bolder, right, richer lives, that conversation, the free flow, just letting life kind of unfold and see where it takes us. And man, I'm excited to see where we end up today.
So important. It really, really is. And thank you again. I think a big part of our responsibility for while we're here on this planet, for the time that we're here, is to really impact as many people as positively we possibly can. That's sort of my mission, and that's what I want it to be. So that's kind of, I try to simplify as much as possible. And so through conversations like this, through this platform, I 500 plus conversations like this I've had, and each and every single one has been unique and special in their own way, and memorable to me. And so, on that vein, maybe as a starting point, we can get
Yeah.
you to introduce yourself, Rick, to
Yeah.
our audience, tell them about the work you do and what's got you to the point that you're at now.
Awesome, man. I appreciate it. Well, the cliff notes, right? I was telling you, for all those that are watching and listening, so we were talking ahead of time. We got into a little AI conversation, these clones and bot conversations.
Yeah.
I got to just tell you a little side note. And this is what I'll tell you through the whole thing. I am launching an app. No
Hmm.
one needs another app. Listen, I'm not telling you to go download now. It's like, who wants? If I pull my phone up, I got like 75 apps on here.
Oh
I think I
yeah.
use two of them,
Yeah.
right? So I'm already killing myself by saying, I'm creating an app,
Yeah.
download it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But here's the thing. In the app, really that was for me a repository of 40 years of the things I'm doing. And I'll unpack that a little bit. But part of it is I've created a Rick bot, like a chat GPT that you can go
Hmm.
to, but it's a Rick bot. And this Rick bot is 40 years of my life. I was a pastor for 15 years. I played sports in high school, college, and in Australia for a little bit, basketball. So that's where I got connected. I'm
Yeah.
looking at you, go, man,
Yeah.
so many cool stories I want to ask about.
Yeah.
And all my life, I've been leadership development. I'm a coach. I do communication training, accountability, and culture training for companies and organizations. I wrote a book this last year that made on the bestseller list and about
Congrats.
mindset and limiting beliefs. And so my world is always, as an educator for 15 years, I know I don't look that old. I mean,
You wrote
but
well.
I've got like 40 years of just work already,
Good for
behind
you.
me. And so I created this bot. And you guys, I'm sure the audience is already figuring this out. My kids love it because they can ask my bot a question, me, Rick bot, Rick dad, and
Mm.
I'll answer it in like 30 seconds. When they ask me a question in real life, it's like 30 minutes. And they're like, so anyways, it's been cool because that I shared all that in introductions because as I've been looking at this and building it and trying
Yeah.
to help my world kind of coalesce. For so many years I've been living at the wide end of the funnel, doing a lot of different things and a lot
Right.
of passions, and I've been fortunate and blessed to be able to do some really awesome things and travel to some really cool places. But as I got older, and I'm in my 60s, yeah, I'll say that again for all of you that just dropped your jaw. I'm in my 60s,
You look great.
and
You're looking great. You're looking great.
thank you. And my wife and I are in a place in our lives where we had intentionally sought to be, which means we recently sold a business. I'm transitioning my world because, I don't know if anybody ever has this question, but our question about 12 years ago is when do we want to do what we want, when we want, where we want,
Hmm.
with who we want?
Hmm. Great
Whether we
question.
do that or not wasn't the point. The question was, when do we want to have the freedom to be able to make those decisions in our life? Our kids are older, right? All that. And we answered that question and said, 60 to 63, we would like to, while our physical health and everything else is good, to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And so that's what we've been working on, and that's where we're at. So, but real quickly, I'm in Houston, Texas, chased a girl down here 36 years ago, been married 34 years to her, two amazing adopted kids, really gifts of God, been blessed. Started out as an educator, a teacher, and a coach because basketball is my passion. So,
Sure.
and I was in Indiana for a while coaching. So that's a whole nother place to coach basketball, right? Another story. But in that journey, what I discovered in my own world is, I was always an encourager, a teacher, a coach, a motivator, energy. It's
Yeah.
always who I was. For a lot of my life, it was more of a false wall I put up because of some things that happened to me when I was young. And so I built
Hmm.
a wall to say, I'm never going to be in a vulnerable position.
Right.
So I
Right.
took the route to say, if I'm not going to be vulnerable and be a victim and allow things to happen to me, then I'm going to stand up and be this, in charge, in control, at the front of the line person. And so that's kind of how I lived my life for a long time. And it wasn't that wasn't who my character was to be comfortable there, but it really was a wrong motivation coming from a wrong heart. And it
Okay.
ended up
Yep.
actually causing some damage and issues along the way. And as I had some coaches in my life and people in my life, and as I was actually wanting to propose to my wife, the day I went to propose to her, I actually sabotaged the relationship,
Mm.
and she was ready to kick me out. She was done. And it was in that moment that I realized, man, I've got a lot of beliefs that are not serving me and they are actually costing me things that I desire, I love, and I want, and they're limiting beliefs. And I made a decision in that moment. I didn't have understanding or concept or language. I said, man, I'm losing her and I don't want to lose her and I don't know why.
Right.
I don't know why I'm sabotaging this thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I made a decision in that moment that I was going to press through, suck up my pride and my ego, not run and just say fine, which is what I had done. And said, I'm gonna press in. And so I did, and I kind of repented and apologized for kind of what I had just done and said, I don't know why I did that, but and it was just, I made her mad. I just had finally just pushed her. I just picked a fight is what I did.
Right.
And it was at that moment I had a coach and some people in my life that was working through stuff. And what I realized is I had a construct or a belief that because at 6 years old, I'll just quickly, 6 years old, I was abused by babysitters, single
Okay.
kid growing up outside of Chicago, me and my
Mm-hmm.
mom,
Mm-hmm.
and she had to work 2 jobs to take care of me and all that
Sure.
stuff, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
she
Mm-hmm.
needed help because she worked late. So she had a babysitter. She trusted the babysitter. So at 6 years old, what am I going to do? Trust the babysitter.
Babysitter. Yeah.
So when the abuse started, I'm like, this can't be her fault because mom trusts this person.
Right.
And so I started taking on all these beliefs and things in my life about myself, my value, my worth, about women, right? Just all this stuff that I had to define what was happening to me. And that definition that I put on internally became a belief system that I had about women, about
Right.
my value, about my worth, all that stuff. And so from that point on, 6 years old to 25, when I sabotaged my relationship with my future wife,
Mm-hmm.
I was just left a wake of broken relationships because I was believing a lie that
Right.
was causing me to behave in a manner
Yes.
that was actually hurting me. It was putting a
Yes.
ceiling, a limit on my life. And I didn't know it
Right.
was there until something so profound came into my life that I wanted so bad and said, I can't keep doing this. I share all that to say what I've given my life to and what I've learned. And part of my coaching framework is, and no matter what context of vehicle, like job, career, it's always
Mm-hmm.
been the same thing for me, is I realize we all struggle with limiting beliefs.
Yes.
Every one of us, doesn't matter who we are, not in every area of our lives, but there's areas, and
Mm-hmm.
we
Mm-hmm.
allow those limiting beliefs to be ceilings over our lives, and they cause us to settle for something less than we were born and created to be about. And we've held them
Right.
so long, we don't even know we hold them, so we call them normal. What I
Mm-hmm.
realized, this normal belief I had that I thought was normal was never meant to be my normal, but it was actually causing me to settle for a less than life.
Right.
And so a lot of stuff with that, but as I was understanding and unpacking, I said, man, how many places do I have a limiting belief that I'm actually giving up on something or settling for something that I don't need to? And so when I started realizing what we have to do is we got to be willing to challenge our normals.
Right.
Now we may stay in the same place.
Mm-hmm.
It may be normal, but what if
Yep.
that normal that you're living in isn't normal?
Yep. Yep.
And so that was what was drove. So as a basketball coach in high school, I'm always speaking life over. Our words matter.
Yeah.
I ended up getting saved at 26 years old through that relationship. And so that, from my faith perspective, I didn't have that growing up, but that shifted because my identity started getting shifted and going, hey, you were created for greatness. You were created and born limitless. You are already. And I thought, wow, no one's ever told me that. Like, I never had that value and worth of myself. And so when my faith came into the picture and that shifted, I realized, man, that's not just me, that's everybody.
It
Right? Whether
is.
they know it or not. And we're
Yeah.
struggling to believe it. And we're living in a world that wants to point out how weak or bad or sad or sorry or lacking we are. And I'm like, I don't think that's how it's supposed to be. So, anyways, that took me on a trajectory.
Yep.
Got into coaching, leadership development. I do one-to-one group coaching now, and really just wanted to take my life and put it out there and say, hey, how can I help other people identify limiting beliefs, crush them, replace them with a limitless belief, and then build a roadmap to walk out their greatest significance, not just success, but
Yes.
significance.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
that's where I've invested my life at every level. And I'm really getting to hone into that. At 60 now, we've gone, I do a lot.
Yep. Yep.
I'm going,
Yep.
I'm just locking
Yep.
in.
I
So, man,
can
a lot of
rela-
words on my part there, oddly, but that's
You know,
kind of
well, so much of what you
so
Rick, so much of what you said, I can relate to. I mean, even the idea of funneling down and getting very, very focused, I can relate to that in so many ways with all the different hats that you wear. And over the last while, I really said, no, this is I see where I need to be, and so that connects with me. I love the idea of questioning our belief system. I really, really do. Like who put that there? Where did it come from? Why is that? Sometimes there are circumstances that may have been relevant at one point, but they aren't any longer. So, for example, I remember hearing a story, and I'm sure I've told this on the podcast in past episodes, where there was a woman who, I guess their family tradition when they had, whether it was Thanksgiving or Christmas, and they made that big turkey, that they cut the wings off the side of the turkey and they put it in the side of the pot, right? And they cook it, and someone, that's how they do it. That's what we do in year, and it's the tradition passed on year after year after year, until someone said, "Hey, why do we do this?" And when they start to analyze and figure out the why, the reason why, it was started with the grandmother, the reason why she did it, because the pot was too small.
Yeah.
That's it. Right. But what happens is that becomes the tradition. Everyone just, oh, that's what we do because I saw my mother do. I saw my mother. And so it's the idea of questioning what we believe, what we see, what we think we know is so important, because again, maybe at that time, right, it made sense to do a particular thing a certain way. But
So
as
good.
time moves on, and it's really easy to fall in the habits, as you very well know, right? So you fall in these habits of things you just do, and you're on autopilot, you're not thinking about it. But we should question. We should regularly just analyze and question what we do and why we do what we do. So I love that approach. I really do.
Yeah, well, thank you. It's true. How we interpret life's experiences and the things we go through, either good or bad, it's a neutral thing, has everything to do with the belief system that we start creating. And then
Mm,
our beliefs drive our behaviors. No one can act in a way that doesn't align with their beliefs. Now, I can act in a way like, I put up this false front for a while, but over time it wears away and we go back to that core belief. So our behaviors have to align with our beliefs,
yes.
right? And so when we look at our outcomes, the things we're producing in our lives, good or bad, and we don't like them, what do we typically focus on changing?
Yeah.
It's our behaviors, right? We're like
That's right.
behavior modification. You
Yeah.
gotta, let me do it different, get up earlier, work harder, get another this.
Yep.
And you can't change an outcome without changing a behavior. But the
Behavior.
problem is we keep cycling back into
Back.
old patterns because we never addressed
The
the
belief.
beliefs that we have
Yes.
that were driving that behavior.
That's right. That's right.
And
That's right.
what if the belief that we have is actually based on a lie? I
Mhm.
wasn't a bad person. I didn't deserve that abuse. I didn't ask for it. Women weren't all bad, right?
Right.
Just that
Right.
one female wasn't
Right.
okay.
Right.
But I have value. I have worth. I all that stuff. So when I realized I was living my life on a lie about how I saw myself, women, and the world around me, and it started impacting every decision along the way.
Mm,
So I had
mm.
to go back and reframe that story and say, hey,
Yep.
wait, I am good. I have value. It's not my fault. Women are for me, not against me,
Right.
right? And all that
Right.
stuff. And I had to declare these things, make new declarations to create new beliefs to change my behaviors.
Mm.
And then I realized that's all of us.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right. And the challenge is that many don't have that internal conversation that you have, and they don't recognize that, hey, maybe there's something about me. They're going, well, it's always that. In a way, kind of adopting that sort of victim mindset where it's happening to me and I can't stop it and I can't. But there is a connection, and so I think that's a
100%.
fabulous point that you raise. I'm a big fan of the manner in which you use the word limitless, because that, to me, that just speaks to potential, right? And
Yes, sir.
and potential and possibilities. Those are two words I have a love affair with, because anything is possible if you believe you can and think you can, and that's not to say you're going to get everything you want. That's not what we're saying. But that's that pursuit of greatness. You're going to land on something good, even when you get that thing that you want. You're going to land somewhere good, and so I'd love to kind of hear how that sort of came into your worked in your framework.
Yeah, man, absolutely. And I got to tell you, just tie it into this, your whole world, audacious, right? That's audacious is this, it's in our minds, it's like audacious, wow, big, grand, beyond understanding, beyond belief, something so, right? And limitless, something
Yeah,
so unbound, something so, right? So
yeah,
it's that same heart, different words, but that heart of going, man, listen, we can live audacious. There is no boundaries. We can live limitless. And I
yes,
and I think all your listeners understand that we're not saying chaos and craziness and just think it and it's going to happen. But there is this place that says there's so much more.
Yeah.
than what we have accepted and settled for, that we were meant to have impact on in our lives. So again, I don't know where your audience sits in a faith side of things, but I am a person of faith. So that drives how I
Yep.
view
Yep.
life. It's the lens, right, by which I see things. So limitless really came from this idea about our createdness, right? That in our createdness, if you believe in a creator, and I do, and I believe that I was created in the image of that creator, right? And so all of that creativeness is in me, and there is a limitless potential and possibility in me. And then
Hmm.
what happens? Life happens. And it all of a sudden punches us in the gut, or it's, because people say, well, you don't understand my life, Rick, and how I was born in poverty. I was born the fourth child, two abortions. This is in the 60s, late 50s, two
Yeah.
abortions, one adoption, and then my mom decided to keep me, and the guy that was the dad of all of those took off. Don't know him, never seen him, right? So I could be called an accident, a mistake, and but that's not true.
Right. Right.
We were thought of and with a future and a hope in mind prior to ever being in a womb. And
Mm.
again, I don't want to get too, but this is what drives my belief. And if this is what I
Yes.
believe, then I look at humans and I go, listen, you don't understand. There's greatness inside of you, so much more. No matter how successful or challenged you are, there's more that you were born and created for. And you've allowed life to define your limits, right? And cause you to settle for something less than. We've allowed our past to define our future,
Yes.
and it was never meant to do that. Inform it, refine it, but not define it. And when we do that, we then have these marred lenses that we're viewing our future, and so we
That's right.
really can't see clearly. And so when I think about limitless, I think about this idea that, like you said, anything is possible in my life. There isn't, my circumstances don't dictate it. My
Mm.
environment doesn't dictate it. My past doesn't dictate it. My parents don't even dictate it. The words that someone spoke doesn't the babysitter who abused me doesn't get to dictate that. They're all real things in my life I've got to process. But at the end of the day, that future, I got to decide, and I have to choose, and I have to step,
Yes.
and I have to risk, and I have to be audacious in that space to say, wait a minute, but it's not easy. And so my passion is how to help call that out in people, to help them say, wait a minute, would you consider challenging the normal that you're living in, the limited life that that's creating in that area,
Yep.
not every area?
Yep.
Would you challenge that and dare to see if there's something more? And
Mm.
become the author of your story instead of your
Yes.
past and others becoming the author. So
Mm.
again, a lot of stuff there, but that's so limitless for me is this limitless potential, possibility, future. It's greater than, I would say this oddly, it's greater than success. Success
Mm.
dies when I die.
Sure.
Significance is the ripple that lives when I'm gone. And it's not the stuff that I bought, created, and
No,
built.
no,
It's
no. The
the
legacy
lives
you
that
leave.
I've touched.
The legacy.
What you
Yes.
said. And so I heard you say when we were talking, why I do this is because I love speaking life into people. I love calling
Yeah.
people out to a higher thing. I love adding value, right? That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyways, there you go.
Yeah.
My passion got
No,
going a little
no,
bit.
please bring it on. I'll welcome it absolutely because I think it's important. And I think that because that passion is what drives. And quite honestly, I think people they connect with passion. They understand it, right? And so I think that's a manner in which we need to be showing up in the world as much as we possibly. Passion is exhausting. It's tiring. It
Uh,
wears you out. There's no question about that. So it's from a sustainability standpoint, we have to recognize how far it'll take us. But I do think that's important. You've referenced significance. So the roadmap to significance. Help us kind of understand that process. And I'd be curious to understand sort of the backstory and how you landed on that as being, yeah, this is something we need to pay attention to.
yeah. So I realized in my own journey, because I had good people in my lives, I would tell your people, all the guys and women that are listening, all the people listening, and I don't know who it was, Jim Rohn or somebody said, we're influenced by those people we surround ourselves with. We all
Yep.
understand that. And
Hmm.
so I would encourage everyone, examine the world that you're in and the people around you. And if they're calling you higher, you're in the right place,
Right.
right? If they're
Right.
holding you back or taking life from you, you probably need to make some changes. And so, I had some good people in my life that saw things and challenged things with me that helped me to dream a little bit that there might be something else. The problem is a dream isn't a strategy, a plan, a process. It's a hope. And people say this, "Oh, what, hope isn't a strategy," kind of thing. And so
Hmm.
I struggled with going, "Oh, that's awesome. Yes, I am. And I can, right? And I will." And then I go about my life and life happens and just stuff like, but I don't know how to get from here to there. I've never tasted that before,
Right.
right?
It's
And so I
new. It's
don't,
new. Unfamiliar
I
ground for you.
and so I began to kind of dig in to say, how do I get from where my current reality to that dream, that vision, that hope? What does that roadmap look like? I'm in Houston, Texas. I love Mexican food. Think about a GPS.
Yep.
You know how many Mexican restaurants are in Houston? Over 4,000 just in one little area, right? I mean, so listen. So you don't put in the GPS best Mexican food.
Mm.
Route. It doesn't work that way. So you got to pick something. So there's a
Mm.
place called Hugo's. Shout out to Hugo's, right? So
Yep.
I couldn't just put, any restaurant. I had to put Hugo's, but I couldn't just put Hugo's. I had to put the address.
Mm.
See, the problem a lot of times in our striving, seeking, desiring, passion, all that is we have not clarified our destination. We want to be somewhere. I want to be successful. I want to be happy. But we don't know what that means or looks like. So if you can't define the destination,
Yeah.
you never know when you arrive. So I realized I've got to really hone in and help people hone in. What is that destination that you desire? And
Hmm.
be clear. Because you don't have it, you can't get there. The other part of that GPS that we have to have, right? And I'd tell everybody, hey, if you're listening, what do you think it is? What does the GPS have to have? We don't do it anymore because it does it automatically, but it's the what? The current location.
Oh yes, that's right. That's right. Where we're at
Where
now.
am I?
That's
We
right.
don't put them in because the GPS says
That's
where we
right.
are.
That's right.
But
That's
if
right.
you don't have the right current reality, doesn't so I'm in one part of the city and I want to go to Hugo's, but I put my current reality, my starting location in a different part that I'm not at and
That's
hit
right.
route. Let's just, I'm never going to get there. So we have
Mm.
to understand where we are and be honest about our current reality. And then we
Yes.
have to have a clear destination, whether it's a lifetime or next week, whatever, a clear destination, right? And said, okay, so I got to get clear on these things and be
That's
honest
right.
with myself. No criticism, no condemnation, no
Yep.
pity parties, but
Yep.
here's where I'm at.
That's right. That's right.
Here's where I want to go.
Right.
Then I realized why do we often give up on pursuing stuff? And once it's clear, what's the next thing? The next thing is our motivation isn't clearly understood. We haven't understood what the benefit of reaching it is truly to us, or what the cost of not getting there truly is to us. So we have to
Mm.
tap into the motivation. What is that motivation that says, man, when I get there, this is how my life changes. This is what
Yes.
goes on. This is what, and I need to be able to touch it, feel it, taste it. If
Yes.
it doesn't hit an emotion, it's not strong enough to get me when life runs in the way, right? When the
Yes.
gut punch
Yes.
comes.
Yes.
And then
Yes.
the other side of that, if I don't reach it, what's the cost to me, my family, my future, my profession? What would it really cost me if I don't? And if
Good
that's
answer.
not strong enough, we're not afraid of anything, then we will spend more times chasing other objects or spinning our tires, right? Or letting something else move us in another direction. So we had
Right.
to clear destination, clear current reality,
Yep.
tap into our motivation, and then from there we can start building a roadmap. What do I have that I'm in my possibility? What do I resources
Yes.
already have
Yes.
that if I
Yes.
just put a little more energy on the resources I have, it's going to move me there? Or I've got all these resources, but I'm only messing with two of them.
Mm. Mm.
Or I've got all these resources, I'm messing with this one, but this other one is actually the one that's got the more power to it. And once I
Yes.
do that, everything else. So we have to ask ourselves, what are the resources we currently have
Yep. Yep.
and leverage those?
Hmm.
The next thing I would say is, what are the resources I don't have that if I
Hmm.
would go get and invest in time, energy, money, relation, if I'd go
Yep.
get that resource, a person, a teaching, a training, something, that investment of that resource I don't have is going to move me towards it.
Correct.
Now, here's where the coaching and here's where life happens for me is the third section. What are the obstacles, both internal and
Absolutely.
external, that
Yes.
if I don't address those, I will never reach my destination, no
That's
matter
right.
how much I've got everything else right.
Yep.
And that's
That's
where
right.
people they do all that other stuff, but
Hmm.
then they're not willing to go, okay, I actually have a belief in me, a limiting belief that says I'm
Yep.
not that good. And so that's
Yep.
why I keep messing up. Or it's an external thing I haven't looked. We're in Houston,
Or it's a
hurricane,
or it's a fear, or it could be any of those things, right?
anything. So
Hmm.
so for me, that roadmap to significance, and why I say significance and not success is because I think that we have put our life and our understanding of our life, our humanity, the existence into this bookended package that if we'll be successful when X. I'm thinking this is a pass through. My success isn't going to be measured for eternity based on what I build here,
No, no,
right? And so significance is my life, my spirit, my essence, my presence, my energy
yes,
that's going to live beyond my physical body. And people aren't going to give a, pardon me, a thing about the house that I built, the cars that I have,
relevant.
vacations that I've took, but they're
That's
going
right.
to care about how much of an impact I made on their lives.
Mm.
And so if I'm not intentional about the influence and impact I want to have on another human's life and live my way around those values and my own purpose statement, then I am going to end up getting to the end of my life panicking a little bit, going,
Yep.
"Oh, what was all this for?"
What have I done? Right.
Does that make sense?
Makes
So
total
so
sense.
there's a framework that I coach through to help people, and that's real practical. But if we don't deal with the lies, the beliefs, our things, and understand how they get in the way, and if we don't understand there's something greater than the dollar at the end of the day,
That's right.
then we're really missing out on what we were called to be a part of and do, and the impact we're meant to have. So again,
Yeah.
it's a lot of
Yeah.
stuff there, but
No, it is, but I
that's
think it all
it.
makes sense. And the part that really, as you talk about, the part that really is very, very clear to me, it gives us an opportunity to take control of our lives and design it and create it the way we need to for ourselves, right? And so if I'm on my audacious path and I know X, Y, and Z is what I'm after. Okay, but to get X, Y, and Z, like you said, your question, what resources do I have? Which resources do I have? And what resources don't I have? Right.
Yeah.
And that gives you the opportunity, okay, I don't have this, so I want to study this field, but I need this education, I need this degree, I need this certificate. Okay, let me get that first. And then you
Yeah.
start that process. And you're like, okay, who can help me along that way? Because I might need some help. What do I need to do? It's all of that. And it's again creating your own life as opposed to just letting life happen.
It's 100%. And that's and here's the thing is none of us would think we're just letting life happen. We would all think we've got a plan, we're working, we're doing that, right? But here's the thing what I've found in coaching for over the last 25 years is that we are either living our life by accident and default or intention and design.
Mm.
But it's a choice. And it's not like we realize, oh, I'm just accidentally living through life and in default. No, we're not making that choice, but because we don't have intention and we're not building strategically, thinking through things, our
Hmm.
impact,
Yep.
right? We by default, in the totality of our lives, spend more time by accident and default. Now, jobs, careers, those are pretty locked in, and we've got, we
Yep.
know what that path,
Yep.
but our purpose in our life, it takes the same intention and design to walk out the impact that I believe that we were meant to have. And so I spend a lot of time with people helping them define their purpose statement, not
Mm.
what they want to do with their life, but the impact they want their lives to have. And then the
Mm.
values that are driving them. Because I think if you don't have solid, non-negotiable core values that you know are non-negotiable, then you're, again, going back to a scripture reference, you're a boat in an ocean being tossed without an anchor or rudder.
Yeah. No direction. No, as you sort of talk about something I've talked to people about and I always encourage is even if you don't exactly know what it is that you
Yeah.
want, stay as closely as you can to the things that you're passionate about, the things that excite you, the things that drive you. You may not necessarily know, okay, this is a job. So, and I'll use my personal example. I had no idea that my future had me being a commissioner of a basketball league. I had no idea. But what I did know is I really love being around the game and I really enjoyed the game. And when I got to the point where I know playing at a high level was no longer my reality, it's like, okay, so what else can I do? And I started to find out and find other areas that I could still be associated and connected and a part of, but not necessarily playing. And as time went on, and just sort of, it's almost like I was in the room, and just
Yes.
being in the
Yes.
room, I was like, "Oh wow, cool! Hey, yeah, let's do this." And hey, Audley, come over here, and that's how it evolved for me. And so, even if you don't know, stay close to the things that you're passionate about, because even just through that process, things
Mhm.
kind of do fall into place naturally.
Man, it's part of it. I would just tell people that are listening, right? Here's the thing,
Mhm.
man, just show up.
Yeah, yeah,
Just show up, be present.
yeah.
Presence, the power of presence and the opportunities that exist. If we don't show up, those opportunities are always there. But if we're not showing up, we never know it. And I sound like, man, it's show up. Like I love it. Sit at the table. Even if it's a table with people you don't necessarily like. I think our world right now is so messed up because we're not willing to sit around a table with our diversity, have real conversation, disagree, get up and be able to leave the table and still care about the human that's sitting there
Yep.
while I disagree. I don't have to walk away agreeing with you, but I don't
Hmm.
have to
Hmm.
devalue you. So sit at the table, be present, because when we're present, our voice then has opportunity to make a difference.
Sure,
So when we're
sure.
asked, what do you think, Audley? And you go, well, here's what I think.
Hmm.
We're given space, right?
Hmm.
And we're
Hmm.
invited into that. And every one of the listeners, your voice matters.
It does.
You
It
you have
does.
something to say, whether you believe it or not. You have something
Hmm.
to offer, whether you can define it or not. It's there. And sometimes it's in the showing up that we discover it,
That's right. That's right.
right?
The,
And
the,
and
yeah. The other part about that, being in that space, I also think is very, very key, is your own individual learning just by being in the room and listening. So
come
maybe
on.
so maybe you got nothing to contribute because you know nothing about this. Just by virtue of the fact that you're in the room listening, you're absorbing. And I will use the example of parenting, right?
Mm.
You know, our children learn far more than what they see us do than what they hear us say. We can say as much as we want, but at the end of the day, our children will be impacted by the manner in which they watch our parents move through the world, how they interacted with others, how they responded through challenges, how they celebrated, how they encouraged. All of those things are where the greatest lessons come from. And so I think that's another important reason why it's key to your point, be in the space and be in the room.
Man, thank you for saying that. I would say to everybody right now that's listening, hey, y'all just take a real deep breath right now and hold it and let it out and just absorb what Audley just said, right? Because our greatest testimony or impact that we have isn't found in the words that we say. It's found in the life that we live. And it
Mm.
isn't even in how well we do, it's how we deal with adversity and heartache. A little bit of your story and my story with our kids and some
Yeah.
challenges, just different places we're placed, right? And so the story, the process is, how do I respond to those things that I didn't ask for, I didn't want, they weren't part, but or the mistakes I made when I blow it with my kids, when I blow it at work, when I act a fool. The most powerful thing we have that people are watching is not how awesome we act all the time, but how do we act when we're not awesome? How do we respond when we're
Yep.
not cool or we're not acting rightly or we do something wrong?
Mm.
I think that speaks volumes. And thank you for reminding me of that and sharing that, because one of my challenges, and your group already knows this, I'm a guy with a lot of words. I'm working on it. I don't
They're
know
important
if
words,
anyone's
Rick.
old enough.
Rick, they're important words, man. Don't keep
Listen,
going.
if anybody's old enough, you remember the trucks that you would drive and they had governors on them? You know what a governor is? A
No.
governor is that thing that they would put on vehicles that you could go to 55 and no faster. It
Okay.
controlled your
Yeah.
speed. It was
Okay.
built in the car on trucks typically so they wouldn't speed,
Right.
right? When I was younger with my kids younger and stuff, they would say, Dad, you got a word governor. Once you hit 1,000 words, you can't say anything else for the rest of the day.
Uh,
I was like, I hit that governor like in the first 2 hours of every day.
you
But then
got
I
a lot to share,
realized,
man. A lot to share.
Yeah, well, but it's about timing and everything else. And I realized I'm learning, I'm at 60 some years old, I'm learning how to breathe more.
Yeah.
And when you're breathing and focusing on breathing, you can't focus on talking.
No, I love that insight, and I think with uh, age, the fact that you're still talking about learning, I just think it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. I think learning is lifelong.
Man,
My mom's 82 and she talks about learning. She just got on YouTube the other day and we were talking about some. I can't remember the comments. We were talking about something, and she was like, "How do you do this?" She goes, "You know what? I'm gonna go look on YouTube." And I was like,
that's
"Whoa."
awesome.
Oh wow, okay. YouTube. Okay, well, do your thing, right? And so it's fun to watch the process she's undergoing. She just literally a couple days ago, she said to me, "My best days are ahead of me." Right, at 82, her best days are ahead of her, and that's such from the spirit of audaciousness. It's such a
Yeah.
wonderful, wonderful even thing to not just say, but to think, because our thoughts become things, and if you feel
Yes.
that life has so much wonderful ahead of you, that's how you're going to live your life. But the piece that Rick that's really key around this, not only that's how you live your life, that's how you influence and impact others. So others
True.
are watching you live this way, and others are getting excited with you on your journey.
Thoughts become things. It reminds me, I say this, and it didn't originate with me, but our words become worlds.
Yeah, I like that one too.
That's such a powerful thing. Hey, let me ask you a question. So, in your experience and your journey to get here, I do a lot of just leadership stuff, but I think
Yeah.
leadership is an overused word. Like, if you
Mm.
Google leadership, you're going to get like 6 billion hits,
A,
right? So,
a
what
million
the heck is
percent.
leadership,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
But in your journey of life and to get to where you are, if you were going to tell someone that's starting back where we were, like, here's the top three things, like top four, like that are the most important, I would tell you in your journey through life, the priorities I would suggest to you to focus on or to make sure you don't miss. What would you, thinking back, what would you think is the most important advice you could give to our younger selves, right? In this process, so that when they get to I don't want to put you in my age, you may be, you may not be, but when they get to this point, we're able to go, okay, that life, there was influence and impact and some significance there that I'm still doing. What would you share?
The number one and most important thing I would tell little young Audley is you are absolutely enough. You
Mm,
had it all the time. Um, I think back to moments in my life where I second guessed myself. I didn't take action. I was too afraid because of what I thought people might think about me. And while I don't want to call those wasted moments or wasted opportunities, because again, it's part of the lesson and learning, right? But they certainly did help hold me back from being who I was supposed to be.
wow. Hey, for those that get to watch this experience, Audley is actually in the disco training world, and he's testing out his disco ball,
It's
guys.
my
Just
ball.
so
There
if
we
you're
go.
wondering where he's going in the lights. So sorry, I had to just
So
put
no,
that in.
no, thank you for the insights there. But no, but the point really is,
Yeah.
I it allowed, I had it all the time, like who I was supposed to be, and
Mm.
what that does, it dovetails into the second one. You asked for three, right? So
Yeah, yeah,
that
two or three,
first one
whatever you
dovetails
got.
right into the second one, and the second one would be, so now that you understand that you're enough in this world, you now need to understand that you have an impact. That you have an impact. I remember when I must have been 12 or 13 years old. Um, uh, my mom used to send my younger brother and I to these day camps, right, in the summertime. And we're here in Toronto, Canada, and so we used to go around the city, and they used to do the excursions. And I remember, and so that we were different age groups. And I remember this one little boy. I wish I remembered his name. For whatever reason, he wanted to hold my hand as we walked through. And in the moment, like I was like, all right, cool. But like I was like, yo, like leave me alone. This kid bothering me. Let me do my own thing. Like I want it, right? And one of the counselors were beside me and they said, you're gonna make a really good leader one day. And I had no idea or concept what that meant. It was more around, look, man, I'm just wanting to have fun. Like I just want to be myself, and I felt like I'm being held back. But it wasn't until years and years later I understood that people are drawn to you for who you are, and so we talk about impact. That's exactly what that is. And so we all have, at our potential, we have the ability to positively impact or negative impact. And at the end of the day, it really just comes down to that choice that you make. And so that would be the second one. And then the third one, look, to be on brand, like be audacious. Like, the marketing department will be happy they threw that out there. Be audacious, be who you're supposed to be. Take that chance, be bold, exhibit courageousness, take that risk and go, right? And trust in yourself, because, one or two things are going to happen. If you try something that doesn't work out, you're going to succeed, you're going to fail. So let's look at this. If you fail, if you succeed, let's start with you succeed. If you succeed, game over, you won. You got what you wanted, right? Everyone's happy. But if you fail, you now know how not to do it again. You now know what mistakes are, and you now how to know to do it better next time. So that's a win-win across the board. So that's kind of sort of what young Audley would hear from me. I'd probably, and you know what, to be honest, Rick, I'd probably use just as much words as you would in telling him, and he'd roll his eyes too, like your kids do with you.
Man, thank you. And listen, I picked up my pen. I don't know if people see this if they're watching, because I needed to take some notes, right? And I just can I just, a couple things that you said. One,
sure.
I started when I was working on coaching and limiting beliefs and dealing with mindset. I did a survey and started asking. I was on a bunch of podcasts when I launched my book and all that, and I was asking people a question. And the number one limiting belief that business professionals, people that are very successful all across the board, their number one that showed up 98% of the time when I asked them, tell me what's the biggest limiting belief you've had in your life that you've had to overcome? I am not enough. 100%, 98.9% of everyone said their top issue they wrestled with in their life was inside their head, believing I am not enough. Enough for what? I don't know. Finish it, but I'm not enough. I have no value. I have no worth. Wow. And then your statement is, hey, I'd say you're enough. I mean, I want to say this with that too. Guys, words have power, because the other thing he said, how old were you at that camp? How many years ago? Just give me a general, how many years ago?
I was like 12 years old, man. I was like 30 plus years.
30 plus years ago. Everyone needs to understand this, the power of our words and the power of moments, right? Because someone said something to you and you're like, whatever, this kid's here. And you and I are sitting on a podcast 30 plus years later, and you're remembering a moment that that person who said that is, they don't care. No one else cares. But in there was a seed that was planted in you that has germinated for 35 stinking years, that you mentioned that to me. Guys, I just would tell everyone, and myself included, don't miss the power of your words. When you speak life over someone, what might be the ripple of that one thing that you spoke to them that maybe they never heard before? Maybe no one's ever bothered to share. Maybe they don't even give you the second time a day, but you just put a seed in some soil.
You did.
That Audley just shared 35 years later has impacted what he's doing in his life today. Come on. When you said that and you went, I was like, the power of a moment.
Yeah, that's right.
Wow.
No, that's huge. That's huge. And I'm glad. Thank you for help processing that, because it is so true. And as you think about it, it is planting that seed and planting that potential. And here's the thing. Let's play it the other way around. So I heard that and I didn't understand it. I didn't get it. Right. Let's just say hypothetically, I went the other way. They said that and I'm like, oh my gosh, you're right. And I start to live my life based on that.
Come on.
Imagine that. And not to say, I'm not suggesting I did it wrong by not. I'm not suggesting that at all. But I'm just saying, like the potential of where things can go. Imagine at 12 years old being told you have the potential to be a fantastic leader and impact lives and make a difference and change the world at 12 years old, and you live to that truth. Just imagine.
So Audley, here's the call to action for all the listeners who listen today, tomorrow, or 10 years from now. In the next 24 hours, find somebody and speak life over them.
That's it.
Don't ask for anything in return. Don't worry about anything else. Don't manufacture, just, I don't care if it's a 10-year-old or an 80-year-old. Go speak some life into someone, call a destiny, declare a truth, speak something over somebody, whoever it is. Maybe it's your children, maybe it's a spouse, maybe it's a stranger that you see at a gas station that's being a good mom with her 6 kids in the car, and you're like, wow, speak life to someone. You have 24 hours to meet this challenge. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just like,
And what I love about that, it forces you to be aware and pay attention to what's happening around you and create those meaningful moments. I literally just did that yesterday with a young man. He was working with, he's an 18-year-old young man, and his younger brother was 9, and he's got some sort of cognitive and developmental disabilities. And his little brother was like 9 years old, was either he was acting up, having a tantrum, just sort of started working through some behavioral issues. And the manner in which I saw this young man who, look, man, at 18 years old, you keep doing all kinds of stuff, like, but caring for your younger brother. And I said to him, I said, wow, like, and because I saw, and there's something special about if you have a sibling that's special needs or requires extra attention, and to watch that, watch those siblings care for that person that needs that. There's something about that, like your level of compassion, your gentleness, patience, all of these things are elevated to levels that are beyond norm, if you will. I don't know what norm is, but I'm just saying at a different level. And that has ripple effects for your entire life. And so when I saw that in a young man, I said, like you have no idea, the patience that you're exhibiting to your brother now in this moment, it's going to have tremendous impact. And he said to me, and the first thing he said to me was, yeah, I got to, man. That's my brother. And I love that. Like, literally, like, I teared up, and I'm feeling myself now again, because it was that powerful of a moment, right? And I think if we can do more of that, right, and if we can really impact people in that kind of a way,
yeah, man,
it's special.
I think that's what it's about. I think the greatest desire that we all have as humans is to be heard and understood. I think our greatest cry is, see me, hear me.
Yeah,
You don't have to do what I say. You don't have to, but just see me, right?
yeah,
For me, not for all the stuff, but see me and hear me.
yep,
And if we can, if that's true, and I believe it is, and I want to be a person of impact. I want to make it. I am living in my life at the back end of this thing. There's less in front of me than
yeah,
behind me, right? And I'm like,
yeah,
how can I make sure that the time I live is much more intentional about the impact I can have on the
mm,
people around me, and they're just wanting to see me, hear me. So how do I learn then to see and hear better
yeah,
the people in the situation? You said it, being sensitive to that, to those people around us, right? And
mhm, mhm.
and here's the thing, like you said this also, and I mean, I've just gotten so much from this. Thank you. The We ask different questions when we get older.
Sure we
And
do.
if there's anybody that's listening, you're in your 20s or 30s, listen, 30s or 40s, right? Ask these questions now. I didn't ask these questions till I was in my 50s, right? Saying, hey, where do I want to be? What's the impact? What's
Right.
that? I started asking in my 50s. I wish, like you said before, if, someone that I would have started asking something, got more intentional and design of my life in my
Mhm.
30s, in my 20s, in my 40s, right? And start catching it then. And don't wait till you're already at the back and go, man,
Yeah.
I don't know how many years I got left.
Right.
And then start
Yeah.
having and trying to seek to have that impact. You can have
Yeah.
that impact
You start
right
now,
now,
you start
right?
now, you don't have to think about it. Just
Right
start,
now.
right? Like
Just
I live with an excitement to be able to have the impact I know I can have on people. That's what I live with. That's what drives
man.
me. And so
I think that's the whole theme of your podcast, what you're doing, right? Is you're bringing amazing guests in, and then you brought me in. So that's, you
well, like you, I was gonna say you said amazing. I'm like, yeah, just like you. Yeah, yeah.
you bring amazing guests in to have real conversations that have real impact in people's
Yeah.
lives.
Yeah.
And the question now is that we ask each other is, listen, with the information that we have, what are we going to do
We
with
do
it?
what's
Not
next?
a
Exactly.
thousand things,
That's
but
right.
what will you do with what, if anyone's listening today and they got provoked by anything that Audley said or might have said, and you got provoked, like, oh, wow, what are you going to do with that?
That's right. What
Right?
next?
Just don't have to make a big deal of it, but what do I want to do with that one thought today? That one provocation, that one challenge, that one thing that I went, oh man, okay, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do with that one thing?
Mhm.
You
Yeah,
know?
great
So thank
question.
you for that opportunity, right? Thank
Great
you
question.
for being a
No.
part of this, right?
Yeah, no, thank you.
Let me
Rick, thank
join.
you. I've thoroughly enjoyed our time together. It's impactful. It's certainly, I always say that I walk away from these I don't call them interviews, from these conversations, and there's
Yeah.
always kind of just one thing that resonates with me, and and certainly your points around significance are important, and it's something to frame in our thinking. One thing I do want to ask before we get on out of here, and I think it's
Sir.
very, very important. Something I ask all of my guests. I want you to tell me, what does audacious living mean to you personally?
Awesome. Yeah, well, it means that it means you're living limitless, buddy. Brother, you're living limitless,
I
right?
love it.
I think audacious means I live not without fear, but I act in the midst of fear. Right? I think audacious living, limitless living, it isn't this grandiose thing that we just like, oh, we're gonna, got to be brave and all that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But listen, fear, challenge, struggles hard. One of my things is do it hard, right?
Mm,
Just do the hard things first, that thing. So I think audacious living is going after your dreams and passions, even when you're afraid or you're scared or you're unsure or you're not certain. I think that audaciousness is that willingness to step in those places, even when it feels like it's going to be hard, right? And just keep stepping into those places towards that passion, towards that dream, and believe that you can, you will, and you are whatever
mm,
you want to end that with. Right. So that's probably
yeah.
that's probably what I would say with that.
No, I think I think that's very, very fitting and appropriate. And again, it gives people that opportunity to continue to believe, right? Believe in who I can be, and that's huge as far as I'm concerned. Rick, what
Yeah.
also has been huge is the time we spent here together. Like, this has just been great. I've absolutely loved it. I thoroughly enjoyed just the insights. I loved your own personal journey, and I think what's really important is that and I'm glad that you're able to draw from your journey, understand where you are, and that helps us frame. Okay, I'm here because X, Y, Z. In your case, I'm here because a certain this happened, that happened, that happened, and that's why I'm here. And I think that's really key in all this. For listeners that wanted to connect with you, learn to be more
Yeah.
limitless, where can we send them?
Man, that's a great question. I am constantly refining and shaping that. I would, they tell you give them one thing, right? And so here's the one thing where my world is right now. I would encourage you to go to the Google App Store, the Apple App Store, and listen. I started this. You don't need another app, but listen, what this app is, it's called Living Limitless. And by the time this comes out, we're dropping it here in another week. But what's there, really what's the value that I'm pushing with that is I've taken all these conversations. This will go into my brain. So I've created a Rick bot, which is a chat GPT, but what makes it different is, and I've had people testing it, is it's me talking to you. You might ask, hey, I'm struggling with not being enough, Rick. What would you tell
Mm-hmm.
me? And I'm going to unpack through my coaching story, my own story, just like this conversation, talking to you in a chat GPT format of, hey, listen, I hear you. I've been there. My story with this. And here's what I'd recommend of how you can understand that you actually are enough, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
the power of this app is not the app itself. There's lots of value there.
Sure.
But the power in the app is, I believe the value is this bot that I'm creating and it's constantly being poured into where 24/7 you can ask it a question and you're going to get an answer from a real human who's lived a real life, not searching all the things and
Right.
hoping some of it fits, but
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
where you can interact. And so that app, Living Limitless, will be dropping soon. There's a lot of other stuff there, a private community, a daily mind shift that you'll get, but really that's where you can find my Rick bot. And so I'd love for you to go there, get into my world. I mean, you can follow on socials. You can post those in there, and
Sure.
that'd be great. And get in my world. I wrote a book called Born Limitless, and it made a bestseller list last year. And so I'll put that in the notes and whatever. But help me if you really want to help me when this app drops, man. Go and take a 10-day trial with it and ask me I dare you, I challenge you to stump myself. Go in there
I
and
love it.
ask something crazy,
I love
right?
it.
Because I believe it's got a lot of value and I'm excited to create something that I think can multiply what's in my heart and
Sounds
speaking life over
beautiful.
people.
Beautiful. My big question is it in your voice?
So it is. It's crazy. Now it's a little, we're refining it, but it is in my voice. We're also doing the FaceTime thing. I don't
Yeah.
have that ready yet, but
Okay.
it's also you can FaceTime with me and see me. And I'm like, this stuff is getting a little creepy, right?
Wow.
So, but yeah, it is in my voice.
Amazing.
And it's my life and everything I've learned. It's not just the wins. It's like you said, it's the losses, the failures, the
Yeah.
getting back up. It's, the single parent kid, the abuse, everything that, and then, I do have an education. I do have stuff that I've been certified in training. I have all that stuff too, but it's how that applies to living it out in real life. And I've been coaching for 15 plus years now,
Hmm.
one-to-one performance, mindset,
Yep.
leadership.
Yep.
And that was the best way I could see to multiply myself as time went on. It's not the answer to coaching, but at least gets people a chance to start
Thinking for
engaging
sure.
and then jump into a community with a bunch of other people like you, like me, that are
Amazing.
wanting to make a difference and speak life. So, man, thank you for that opportunity to share that.
Yeah.
Living Limitless,
Well,
Apple,
yeah.
Google, all those places, Living Limitless. Come in and say hello when you get in there.
We'll make sure that the appropriate details will in the show notes for everyone. Like I said, Rick, this has been awesome. Love the time. Great
Man, my
work.
pleasure.
Congratulations. And thank you for being a guest on the Audacious Living Podcast.
It was my pleasure and honor. Thank you so much, Audley. Appreciate you.
Welcome back to the podcast. That was a powerful chat with Rick. One of the things that he articulated so clearly is that most of the limits that we live with were never meant to be permanent. They were learned, they absorbed, repeated until they felt true. But that doesn't mean that they are. Rick reminded us that beliefs shape behavior, behavior shapes outcome, and outcomes shape how we live our life and experience it. You change the belief and everything downstream begins to shift. One of Rick's most powerful reminders in this conversation is the distinction between success and significant. It's a really, really important one here, folks. Success has an expiration date. Titles fade. Achievements end. But significant lives on in the people we impact, the words we speak, and the way we show up when it matters the most. That idea alone has the power to reframe how we define a meaningful life. What I personally loved about my conversation with Rick was his emphasis on presence, not performance, not perfection, presence. Rick doesn't just talk about mindset from a distance, he lived it. He speaks from experience, humility, and a deep understanding of how early beliefs shape adult lives. Audacity, as Rick kindly reminds us, isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet, at that quiet courage to question a belief you've been carrying for years. And that's the kind of audacity that creates real change. If today's conversation resonated with you, I encourage you to connect with Rick directly. You'll find his links to his work, his app, Living Limitless app, his book. All those resources are in the show notes below. And I encourage you to take that next step and continue the conversation. And let's kind of bring it back to where we started, right? Again, that question I asked off the top, what if your limits aren't real? What if they're simply beliefs waiting to be challenged? Rick's work reminds us that you don't need to have a perfect plan, but you need to have the courage to question the story you've been telling yourself. So choose presence, choose impact, choose significance over success. That's Audacious Living. I want to thank you for listening to another episode of the Audacious Living Podcast. If you found value with what Rick added, and if Rick added some value to your life and really opened up your eyes a bit, please take a moment to like, follow, comment, or leave a review. It's one of the simplest ways you can help this message reach even more people who are ready to live intentionally and boldly. Of course, you can leave a review at ratethispodcast.com/audacious. Until next time, keep questioning the limits, keep showing up, and keep living your best audacious life ever.
Driven by purpose, fueled by passion. My words got power, my thoughts have action. Motivation,